In the last couple of weeks, I've been getting a lot of requests to get to Japan, and I think it's because Japan's finally open, and then just in general, Japan is a very popular place to go to. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I would search for award availability for Japan Airlines operated flight in business class, and of course, you can use this strategy for economy class as well. But I'm just gonna do it in business class because business class is typically what a lot of people request because it's way more difficult to book business class flights than economy tickets. So apply this strategy to economy or business class, whichever you prefer. So let's get into it. The reason why I'm on this page is I want to show you the One World Alliance. And so we want to fly Japan Airlines. We can jump on Japan Airlines and search on Japan Airlines, but it's not ideal because it's a little difficult to navigate. And so one of my preferred methods to search for One World Alliance partners is through American Airlines. American Airlines is just an option to search for One World Airlines. You can jump on any of these other airline websites and search for One World partner flights or One World flights, but I'm going to do American Airlines because it is the easiest to search on American Airlines because they have the award calendar, which I'll show you in a minute. But before we jump over to American Airlines, let's figure out where Japan Airline flies to. So this is flightconnections.com. It's one of my favorite sites. I have the paid version. You don't need the paid version to do this, but you can sort this by airlines. And so let's do Japan Airlines and see where they fly to in the US. And so these are the nonstop routes or the cities that Japan Airlines flies to the US. So that includes San Diego, which is my home airport, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver, Dallas, Chicago, New York, and Boston. And so we want to focus on these major airports. Once we figure out that there's award availability on one of these nonstop routes, that's when we can potentially add a connection to see if adding a connection would work. And so say if I've lived in Denver and I find availability out of Dallas Fort Worth, as long as I find that Dallas Fort Worth to Tokyo availability, that's when later I can check to see if I can potentially add a Denver to Dallas flight for no additional points or maybe a few extra points. But we want to focus on the non-stop routes first, just to make things easy. This is the hardest leg to find. The transatlantic or trans-Pacific in this case is always the more difficult award availability to find. That's why we want to focus on this non-stop route first. Now we know these cities. I'm going to start with my home airport in San Diego because I'm curious to see what award availability there is. So we're going to go to American Airlines. And let's search one way for now. I always focus on searching one-way routes first. Usually there's no benefit to searching round trip. If you find the one-way outbound and the one-way inbound, then you can marry them together into one itinerary or one search. But there's really no benefit in searching round trip. You're just gonna run into more issues when you're searching for round trip. So I always recommend searching one-way tickets first. I'm gonna go ahead and click on redeem miles, San Diego to Tokyo. And if you type in TYO in most airline pages, they'll search Narita and Haneda. So Japan, Tokyo has two airports, Narita, Haneda. Haneda is closer to the city, Narita is a little further out. I prefer to fly into Haneda, but Narita is totally fine. If you type in TYO, it'll search both airports. Let's do a number of passengers 2 for now. I'm gonna pick a random date, say let's like January 4th and hit search. All right, so these are the search results. We can go day by day here if we want to, but what we're gonna do instead is click on this calendar. And so this shows us a full snapshot of the month. And what we wanna do is sort this by nonstop because we know that San Diego to Tokyo is a nonstop route, and we wanna sort this by business class. And so it tells us that there's only one date available in January, January 1st. It's 60,000 points, and there's 2 business class seats available. Let's go and click on that and click on apply changes. And as you can see here, operated by Japan Airlines, the nonstop flight in business class, 60,000 American airline miles. Okay, and so we found one date with award availability. Let's kind of go through the other months and see. And so we're gonna have to repeat this again, nonstop, business class. February has no dates, March has none, April has none as well, May has none, nothing in June, July has 1, 2, 3, 4 dates, August has more dates. This is still summer vacation time, so it might be a good option for summer vacation. Nothing September. A few dates in October here. And then in November, it seems like November has the most dates. Let's go ahead and pick a random date here. Let's do November 7th. Hit apply changes. And yeah, so this is the Japan Airlines flight with 4 seats left. And so that's searching for award availability here on American Airlines. Let's go try a different city. Let's do Dallas, for example. DFW. Again, just a date in January, hit search. And what we're going to do here is hit the calendar, hit nonstop, switch this to business. And so you'll see in this case, it's a little different. You'll see the green dates has 60,000 points, and there's these other dates in between that have way more points. And so the 60,000 points is most likely the Japan Airlines flights. And these other ones are the American Airlines operated flights. American Airlines charges more miles for their own operated flight, where as partner airlines like Japan Airlines, American Airlines charges a fixed rate of 60,000 points. And so we're still looking for the 60,000 point options here. Let's go through the months here. And so this has 300,000 points. And so that's most likely the American Airlines operated flight, which is why it's so many points or so many miles there. Yeah, same thing with March. And so it's a little tricky. I mean, you have to be able to recognize that 60,000 points here is the Japan operated airlines flight. And so, for example, let's click on the 24th here. Yeah, and so this is Japan Airlines, and you can see American Airlines here is charging 300,000 miles. If you're looking at the calendar, what we want to find is that 60,000 mile option. Let's go to business. All right, let's skim through the dates here again. Nothing in May, nothing in June, nothing in July, one date in August, 120,000 miles in September, which is probably the American Airlines flight. Nothing in October. And there are 4 dates here in November. Let's go and click on November 7th, for example. All right, yeah, 3 seats on the Japan Airlines flight in business class for 60,000 American Airline miles. All right, so now that we've found the award availability, you can kind of go through the same process for all the other cities that Japan Airlines flies to. Chicago, New York, Vancouver, Toronto. Wait, was Toronto one of them? No, not Toronto. Boston, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, and so on. So you can repeat that same process on the American Airlines page to find the 60,000 American Airline miles points operated by Japan Airlines in business class. Once you're able to find that, then you have the option to book through American Airlines if you have American Airline miles. If you don't have American Airline miles, there are some other options. So let's run through those. So going back to the One World page here, since Japan Airlines is part of the One World Alliance, if we can find that availability on American Airlines, that means we can potentially book through Alaska, we can potentially book through British, we can book through Cathay. All these other ones like Finnair, Iberia, and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't recommend you even trying to search on those because they probably won't be able to see the availability or they'll charge you a ton of miles. And Qantas is an option as well. But what I'm primarily focusing on is British Airways and Cathay Pacific because credit card points transfers over to British Airways and credit card points transfer over to Cathay Pacific Asia miles. If you have Alaska miles too, you can book through Alaska Airlines, but Alaska Airline miles can be kind of difficult to earn because you really have to earn Alaska miles from getting the Alaska Airlines credit card or actually flying Alaska. And so no credit card points transfers to Alaska, but there are credit card points that transfer to British Airways and there are credit card points that transfer to Cathay Pacific Asia miles. And so what I'm going to do is let's jump on British Airways and search on British Airways to see how many points they're requiring on British Airways for the same exact flight. So I have British Airways pulled up here and let's do DFW to TYO. And that date was November 7th. And I'm going to put in like 2 people for now. This class doesn't really matter because it'll show you business economy and premium economy all at one time. Let me hit search. All right, so here are the results, Dallas to Tokyo, and scrolling down, it shows us that Japan Airlines flight, and it has the 3 business class seats left there, DFW to Haneda. And if I click on business class here, it'll say 92,750 Avios and $367 in taxes and fees. So British Airways is charging more than American Airline miles, but at least you can transfer credit card points over to British Airways to make this booking. The points that transfer over to British Airways are American Express, Capital One, and Chase points all transfer over to British Airways. All right, so now we know that. Let's jump over to Cathay Pacific Asia miles to see how many miles and points they're charging for the same exact flight. Now we know how much it's going to cost on British Airways. Let's jump over to Cathay Pacific Asia miles and run the same exact search. So I'm here on Asia miles. You can go to cathay.com, cathaypacific.com. I don't know why I always default to typing in Asia miles. I think they're in the process of phasing out Asia Miles and just calling or just directing everybody to the Cathay page. But I just always go to asiamiles.com, click on redeem rewards and flight awards here. And I click on redeem now. And I'm going to do one way DFW to TYO. So TYO doesn't work here on Cathay's page. I think it was Narita that was the destination. Oh no, it's Haneda. And so let's type in Haneda. And then we're going to do business class, one adult, and then let's do November 7th again and hit search flights. All right, so here on Cathay Pacific Asia Miles, it shows me the same exact flight, DFW to Haneda, 75,000 Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. And so what we can do is transfer our credit card points over to Cathay Pacific Asia Miles and make this booking for 75,000 Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. The points that transfer over to Asia Miles are American Express, Bilt Reward points, Citi Thank You points, and Capital One Venture Miles. And so those are the 4 points that transfer over to Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. So that's how we can book this 75,000 point or 75,000 Asia Mile ticket with our credit card points. That's how I would search for award availability to get from the US over to Japan on a Japan Airlines flight. I would find all the routes on flightconnections.com from the US over to Tokyo on Japan Airlines, and then I'll search for the award availability on American Airlines. And then from there, once I find the award availability on American Airlines, I would kind of explore my options to book through British Airways, to book through Cathay Pacific, or if I have Alaska Airline Miles, I can book through Alaska Airline Miles, or I can just book on American Airline Miles too, if you have American Airline Miles. So that's kind of the process. Comment below if you have any questions. And I think that's all I have for this week. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.